Nigeria's removal of fuel subsidies has led to significant increase in the cost of living for many Nigerians. And while solutions are being sought, the debate continues on what the ideal price of petrol should be in Nigeria. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria says petrol should be between 700 naira and 750 naira per litre at retail stations. Meanwhile, the president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has revealed that most Nigerians are unaware that they currently pay 55% of what other West African countries pay for premium motor spirits, adding that his refinery has aided the reduction of fuel prices by selling petrol between 850 naira and 820 naira per litre. Before we get to our guests, and they will give us a perspective on this debate, let's listen to PENGASSAN chairman. We're talking about Festus Osifo on what the price of petrol should be in Nigeria.
Per litre of petrol was sold around 900 naira per litre. You will realize that the international crude price was somewhere around $80 per barrel. So we have been monitoring the trend. When the crude price reduced to around $60 per barrel, we did not see commensurate reduction in the pump price. And when you convert that to liters and you bring it down to our naira, you are going to see that at a time when crude price was around $60 per barrel, we should be buying our PMS somewhere around 700 to 750 naira per barrel, per liter.
All right, joining us for this conversation and, well, debate to provide their perspective, we have Professor Ken Ife, Global Consultant on Development Economics. Good morning, Prof.
Oh, hi, good morning, and thank you for having me.
A pleasure. And also joining us from Abuja, we have Abdulmajeed Oyeyemi Amussah, the founder of Dear Nigeria. Thank you for joining us as well. All right,
thank you very much. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, good morning. Let's begin with you, Prof. And we know that this conversation is very expansive, especially with, some also debating for the introduction of or reintroduction of some level of subsidy. But let's begin with what the ideal price of petrol should be. We have the PENGASSAN chairman saying that, people are taking advantage of the system. People are gaming the system, inflating the price of petrol, the middlemen. So what should really impact the price of petrol? And are we seeing those factors, like when oil prices go down, are we seeing that impact what we're seeing at the pump, what the consumers are seeing?
Well, as you would know, from late last year, you could see how Dangote was going down as soon as the prices come down. And then you also saw how the naira to crude, once it was removed, you saw how prices went up. But the sector that is the biggest challenge that we have, which is the fuel storage, the asymmetry and misalignments in the fuel storage, distribution, transportation, and logistics sector needed to be tinkered with and brought to become much more efficient. If you look at the price tag of fuel as about 825, look at how much are you going to give in that stack to the people who did exploration, how much for people who drilled the crude, transported the crude, then who refined it. And then by the time it comes out at 825, just look at what the retailers do. They hike this price to 1,200, 1,100. So they're taking a lion's share without making any investment. So that is one thing. So trying to get that sector more efficient is what is likely to drive down these prices far better than what we have at the moment. So I have no hesitation that these prices will come down if only we can settle that. And bear in mind that there are 8 major stakeholders here. You have the NUPRC that has been behaving itself very well, and then you have the NNPC that has been the sole cause of the challenges that we have, trapping 50% of that reduction of that subsidy and making only 50% available to the president over this period. And then you have the NMDPRA, which we need to tame because they are not actually doing any regulatory work. They're just causing and adding to the confusion. Before you come to Dangote, come to the modular refiners, come to the oil marketers and the retailers, and then come to 330 million Nigerians and the 42 million MSMs. These are the two that we need to focus on and evaluate the social, economic, and environmental impact of what is going on these people. These are the critical stakeholders. Not a handful of retailers, not even half of the retail chain, because many of them have actually joined the thing and they're doing business that are fomenting the trouble and then holding the entire country hostage.
I mean, there's so much happening there, and hopefully we'll get a balanced perspective. I'll come to you, Abdulmajeed. I mean, so many players in between that are allegedly tinkering and inflating the price of petrol. But I'll come to you in just a bit after this break on the role the regulators should be playing. Stay with us, it's still Business Edge. The price of PMS in Nigeria, are we paying the real price, or are middlemen tinkering with the price and affecting the price that consumers, of course, pay for it? That is the debate on today's conversation on Business Edge. Of course, we have Professor Ken joining us. We also have Abdulmajeed with us in this, from Abuja, actually. So I'm coming to you, Abdulmajeed. Prof has, mentioned the fact that there are so many players in between that may or may not be playing their role. PENGASSAN has accused depot owners, oil marketers of inflating prices. They're saying price of petrol, pump price should be 700, 750. Where do you stand in this? And do you think that the NMDPRA should be publishing pricing templates?
Thank you very much for that question. And thank you, Prof, for your earlier contribution as well. Very on point. So really, for me, I wanted us to understand something very simple. Fuel pricing in Nigeria or anywhere in the world is not just a matter of numbers at the pump. It's a deep reflection of our political economy. It's a reflection of our social contract. It's a reflection of our structural and infrastructural vulnerabilities and limitations as well. It's all these things that come together beyond just addition of numbers to decide how much should the price of petrol be at the pump. Because we know that the effect of this petrol price is far-reaching. It literally moves the inflation almost immediately, and it affects household almost instantly. So it's interesting where we are at. We're in a regime where it's about liberalization. It's about getting market structure in place. It's about letting competition come in. So, like you just asked me now, what is the role of NMDPRA? What happens to PEF that have tried to create stability within all these price disparities that we're experiencing? So we're at the crossroads. We need to ask ourselves: do we fully liberalize the market and let competition drive efficiency? Do we maintain price stabilization mechanisms for social equity? Do we balance investor confidence with consumer protection? These are things that regulator needs to pivot into thinking more holistically about. Dangote has made a big move. The move is far-reaching, is humongous. So other private players and other stakeholders are going to make a move back, because this is a market, and there are people who have been historically in this market making a living. And now that Dangote has made this move, they need to also respond either through competition, either through collaboration, either through cooperation, or linkages that can lead to more stability for the end user. We are speaking all these big grammars, but the truth of the matter still remains that the person at home just wants to turn on his light and have access to electricity. They want to turn on their cars. They want to go outside and take transport that is affordable and buy goods at a price that is affordable for them based on what they are earning. So it's a broad topic that has a lot of aspects to it, but the regulators might need to pivot and imagine themselves playing a more delicate role in ensuring fairness to the end consumer, and so that there is no issue of monopoly or whatever. At the end of the day, it's a move in the market. You get your license, you make a move. So if the move ensures that we get better prices, we're going to patronize that person who has brought this move. And when the other private sector players come in, it's about innovate or die, compete or die. You need to innovate, you need to compete, and the regulators must pivot to actually live up to the expectation of their duties to ensure that the people get the best, outcome of this situation.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Indeed, a free and fair market, some would call it. And I'm coming to Prof now. Abdulmajeed has, introduced Dangote into the conversation. So let's begin with Dangote. He has also come out to talk about the pricing and mentioned that Nigeria currently pays 55% of what West African nations are paying for petrol. So he's suggesting that it's much cheaper. The other nations are paying at least about $1 or so, at the pump. What are your thoughts on Dangote's, perspective of what the price should be, and the role he's also playing when it comes to pricing in the market? I remember when conversations about Dangote refinery coming on stream, everybody was excited that, but we'll see the petrol prices come down. So what role has he played so far in that? Is it even his role to play?
He has a massive, absolutely massive role to play, and he has been. Look, let me take you back. First of all, bear in mind that NNPC, as a comparison to Dangote, is playing in the upstream, midstream, and downstream sector of the economy. Dangote is only playing in the midstream. Does he own retail outlets? He doesn't. But he wanted to make sure that the product that he's kind enough to provide to the country is actually delivered, efficiently to bring it to the people's point of need. It's not replacing the petrol stations. And he even added CNG daughter booster stations by volunteering 100 trucks to do that. In other words, he's addressing environmental sustainability, which is the president's business, to get Nigeria to deliver our national determined contribution in relation to climate change, and that is a CNG. We're seeing gas is our transition program for the next 30 years. He's actually giving a helping hand on that. Secondly, before you do anything national, you have to do a pilot, show us a pilot. In December last year, he piloted this by removing the equalization, because what happens is that he had to maintain the price of crude all over the country, and then the supply, there was no queue. We had a Christmas with no queue, no price hike, simply because he delivered fuel to every of the stations in the country, and that cost him over 10 billion naira. And nobody ever said thank you. But he did that. So that proved that he could have effect. And for the first time, inflation on food came down in December. Normally it's the peak. It came down. So demonstrating the efficacy of that price, maintaining that price. Then on this particular occasion, what he is doing is he's saying, okay, let's see if we can deliver more efficiency in this whole subsector, since that is where they have the price tag. Now, he's doing that, and everybody's crying. Not everybody, sorry, a small segment of the 8 major stakeholders are crying. What complaint have you got from the modular refineries? The main competitors to him they're not bothered. They're just enjoying the fact that he is going to make life a lot easier. Now, let's look at the NMDPRA. NMDPRA has not done the jobs they are supposed to do. First of all, they should establish the correct quantity of fuel consumed in Nigeria. We all know that it's only a little over 30 million liters per day. But they claim 60 million, 58 million, they claim 70 million. During the border closure against the ECOWAS communities, we saw a massive drop in the price, in the quantity of fuel sold by over 30%. And then we saw all the countries in the coastal region crying, including Senegal, Ghana. They were all crying. Prices went high there because they were all having fuel coming through Nigeria. And then we were paying for all those fuel. A tanker will come with 30 million litre, drop to 10 million, they register 30, go away, come back, Ghana, come back. By the time they finish, they recorded 90 million litres for them. They all admitted all this. EFCC went after them. So we came from that regime to NNPC having a monopoly of saying, okay, we have the monopoly to import and monopoly to export. And what did we see? We saw NNPC receive only one. They did swap arrangement. They denied central bank money, which they should be getting about $3 billion every month. they were receiving only PMS out of more than 20 products you can get from, and they turned back and said to Nigerian government, "You are owing me. You are owing me. Go and borrow 500 billion naira every month." That's what NNPC was doing to Nigeria. So Tinubu came and stopped all that, migrated this public subsidy from public sector to private sector. Then when they absorb that, do you know what is going to cost this man for removing this equalization on this fuel program nationwide? It's going to cost him over 200 billion. And he's doing it. He doesn't even need to sell petrol to Nigeria, for goodness sake. How much is he getting from the crude? About 70,000 barrels. Not even up to 100,000 barrels. He should be getting 650,000 barrels, but he's not getting it. But he still wants to clean up the mess in the country so that people can breathe. 230 million Nigerians are not breathing. The companies, 42 million companies, are suffering. They can't get fuel, they get it irregular, they pay high price, their machines get messed up because they're dumping substandard fuel. The second job of the NPNMP, DRA, whatever they call them, is to have a standard laboratory. Because the PIA says when any product gets brought in, it must be tested to the satisfaction of the stakeholder. They don't have a standard international laboratory that can measure AST, American standard. Neither does NNPC all these years. And yet they are burning our money. NNPC has spent over $10 billion in the last 10 years repairing the refineries, and then $3.5 billion in the last 3 years to rush those 2 refineries they said are working. Working where? Only producing condensate, what they call naphtha. And then you now have NMD, whatever they're called, having the temerity to issue license for importing 200 million liters of petrol. Where is this thing done? And those petrol are substandard because according to ECOWAS, by January this year, you should not import anything more than 50 ppm parts per million of sulfur. So, I mean, look at what they're bringing in, more than 5 times more.
Yeah. So the regulators, definitely, Prof, the regulators and the players in this market appear not to be doing enough. And perhaps we'll also get into the Petroleum Equalization Fund in just a bit. But let me come to you, Abdulmajeed. And, you know, while Dangote is being hailed as a savior, and, you know, we should be grateful and thankful, as some may say, there are those who are saying that, especially with this latest move, holding costs, it would have cost him a lot more to hold, you know, the petrol, which may have, you know, instigated him coming out with these CNG's vehicle just to keep his product moving, because you can't pause a refinery. And then there are also people that are accusing him of some level of monopoly, which could lead to price control. What are your thoughts on this? And again, the role of the regulator in preventing such a monopoly in the market?
Yeah, thank you very much. Really, reality eats strategy for breakfast. Dangote has made a strategic move to expand market access, increase efficiency, and gain more control. It's a great move, but at the end of the day, realities are taking place. For example, there's the Iran and the Israel war, which might lead to the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, which I think around 20% of global oil and petroleum movements passes that route. So if that happens, from the last experience that we have had in history, it may even cause a quadrupling or a doubling of the oil price. And this has a direct impact on the petrol price as well. So this move Dangote is making, just like Prof just confirmed, it's a huge expense. It's a huge capital requirement for Dangote to take it on. And the truth of the matter is that it's a very large country. It's a very, very large country, and it's not easy to cover the entire market. You will be spending a lot, you know, absorbing those shocks, and it is good that he's going in the direction of CNG, because those things can bring about, you know, better, you know, cost realities and all of that. But again, I like how you spoke about the regulators. We cannot leave the setting of prices to one private sector entity to decide. At the end of the day, government must play the role. I said earlier, floor pricing is not just a game of addition and subtraction. It's a reflection of your realities as a country, to set the price that works based on your reality, your vulnerabilities, your limitations, and then your efficiency in your market, your logistics. All these things are factored in. And because of the layers of players, you must ensure that there is profit margin for everyone to keep everyone cooperating across the chain. So at the end of the day, what we know is going to happen here is it looks like PEP's role has become almost obsolete. I mean, it's been, reduced in over time, but this has completely kind of, left them without any role to play. So what we can imagine, or what we can see coming next is government is, probably take an action, maybe after observing the possibility and the impact of Dangote's move. Then government most likely authorize the formal winding down or the repurposing of the Petroleum Equalization Fund, and then market forces will take place as well. The Independent Market Association, the Petrol, and they're all coming from a resisting point of view. But eventually, everybody would figure out which part of the market they can take on. Again, I said it's about innovation. It's about competition. Dangote has made his move, and if he hits the market, he's going to get that market. And if we have efficiency, we're going to be better off for it. But the regulators must step in to ensure that this responsibility for market, for price setting, is not left to any one private entity to decide. It has to be born out of multiple understandings of our current reality as a country and all of that to decide, what's the best price. But allowing the market forces take the lead on that decision. That's my take. And regulators could also insist that if PEF or NMDPRA must be maintained in this part of the chain, maybe they can consider other aspects where Dangote's logistical network has not been able to cover or may fail, sometime in the future, and so on. So it's not a time to feel as if one person is monopolizing anything. It's a private company and he has made a move. It's time for other private companies to imagine that Nigerians need stable access to energy resources, stable access to oil and gas resources, stable access to petroleum products to continue to remain productive. So private sector players should see that there's still a little bit of chaos because it has not stabilized yet. So alternative solutions must also see themselves, here. The fact that, all this is going on, it doesn't mean a business will stop tomorrow. People need to go and buy fuel. People need to turn on their generators. People need to drive to work. And all those things must continue to take place. So I think it's time for everyone to really look at the fact that we're in a crossroad. It's a progressive crossroad. It's the path to development. It's the path to progress. Some private sector players have made big moves that would lead to more innovation and would basically, from where he has acted now, we need to act upon that to really extend access to petroleum products to the people at the last mile. Petrol stations, petrol station owners should see a business for themselves. Right now the market movements and prices doesn't favor the petrol station owners, especially the independent marketers, because it's moving too quick and their margins are eroding all the time. Many of them have kind of run out of working capital, really. So it will require, larger entities with bigger capacity to remain in business and continue to do business with likes of Dangote and so on. So I think I've said a few things there just that we can all, take away. Yes.
I mean, you've said a lot there that we can take away. And I think another thing, something that stood out there was the timing. Right now, a lot of volatility because of what's going on in Iran and the proposed closure of the Strait of Hormuz. You're saying that prices could double, quadruple in some cases. And this sort of builds a case for the introduction of the Petroleum Equalization Fund, which was closed as part of the PIA. I'm coming to you now, Prof. Let us into this Petroleum Equalization Fund, how it's supposed to work, especially at a time like this when pricing could be very volatile. And, even across the nation, we are seeing different prices even within the country. So, we have countries like India who sort of mix a combination of market dynamics and government policy. So how does this current situation create a case for the Petroleum Equalization Fund, and how is that supposed to work?
Well, the Equalization Fund has actually gone by PIA. It's gone. When let's get back to how the NMD, whatever, midstream and downstream authority is an amalgam of the Equalization Fund, the PPP, then the two sections in the DPR, that is the downstream and upstream, downstream and midstream sections of the DPR. These are the four that were brought together. But unfortunately, the life of the Petroleum Equalization was terminated, and the dealers are accusing it of owing them 100 billion. Now, let me tell you something, because you raised a very important question, which I will connect to this. You asked about competition. If anybody believes in competition, is the president. From day one, he brought in competition, and then is now fighting to maintain a monetary policy stance that encourages competition. Now, that's why you have said the currency. Now, in case of this, NNPC is the biggest monopoly in the country. Monopoly of upstream, midstream, and downstream. And you saw how the monopoly of that midstream is hurting the country. But the money is burning on NNPC refinery. You saw what the downstream did to us, forcing us into that 500 billion, about $4.5 billion a year. Now, the second monopoly is the retailers. That's why they're screaming, because they are fed, they are spoon-fed. There's this bottle-feeding economy, which is called subsidy from equalization, that is feeding them. And then they are shaking because the judgment day has come. They are the monopoly. It was the monopolies that cry because they depend on government subsidy, they don't innovate, and then they blow the opportunity for the economy, for the common man and the industry to enjoy the single product God has given this country. Now, let me tell you what the PRA is also not doing. The DMP or what's not doing. Its job, according to PIA, is to gauge the productive capacity, refinery capacity of all the players, and then advise the NUP, the upstream, of this capacity, so that the upstream agency, which Komala is heading, that is doing correct job, and you can see what they issued last week. They now advise the people who are drilling crude to satisfy local demand before exporting. Explain to me, why is Dangote getting 70,000 barrels a day? For goodness sake. Secondly, based on the information it has gathered on the local capacity, we will determine whether there is deficit in the supply of PMS in the country, on the basis of which it can now issue license for the importation. There was no deficit, and it issued license for 200 million litre to be imported. And the PIA went further to say, if you do import, the stakeholders must be aware and participate in making sure that the quality of that fuel is checked. Didn't check anything. An importer that is sending you dumping fuel here that couldn't even enter the country where they are refining it, issue his certificate, and on the basis of his certificate, you allow the things to come in here. There are more than 11 things you check. You have octane number, sulfur content, pour point, flash point, density, specific gravity. There are many. Which one tested? Because they don't have the laboratory. Neither has NNPC. Take them with your stakeholders and go to Dangote that is approved and whose product is being exported to America, Saudi Arabia, everywhere, all over the continent. They won't go. Instead, they will admit sulfur content, look at the content. Yeah. So they are not doing their job.
Regulators, right.
They're not doing their job. So that's why you should remove these civil servants and bring private. Look at NNPC, the cleanup of NNPC. You've now got smart guys, brilliant guys heading NNPC. Sort out this, what you call modular refinery, not modular, this midstream, downstream people. Because this collection of civil servants, sort them out, get proper business people to come and sort out this economy. They're just not doing the work they are alive to their responsibility. They have no clue whatsoever.
Yeah, Prof. So basically, I mean, the ball is back in the court of the regulators and NNPC to regularize the sector and stabilize the sector a bit. Finally, let me end with you, Abdulmajeed, especially on the talk of, balancing out the sector and suggestions of some level of government control of fuel pricing, right? Within Africa, we have top oil producers who have some level of subsidy, the likes of Egypt, Algeria. They navigate subsidies and production levels to ensure affordable fuel. Should our government consider that? All right, it appears we're having network issues there. But, I mean, this conversation will continue definitely, and we'll revisit matters like this as issues develop right here on the show. We're going on a break right now. We'll be back. Stay with us. All right, that wraps our conversation on petrol pricing in Nigeria. I want to thank Professor Ken Ife, Global Consultant on Development Economics. Thank you so much for your contribution to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Government should not involve itself in the price regulation, please.
All right. Fair enough, fair enough. And then we have Abdulmajeed Oyeyemi Amussah, who joined us also. I'm not sure he's still with us, but he provided substantial contributions to the conversation. He's the founder of Dares Nigeria. A pleasure having him join us.